I'm conflicted that I love Dragon's Dogma 2. Let me explain. The game itself is phenomenal. Besides the sometimes poor performance in city areas, I don't really have anything bad to say about the game and thoroughly enjoyed my 7 to 8 hours of play on launch day. I can really gush all I want at length about the weightiness of the combat, the beauty and authenticity of the world, and the unparalleled immersion I felt walking through the lush forests of Vermont and the sand-swept dunes of Batal. But I would be lying if I said that the game was perfect. Disclaimer, this is all my personal opinion on Dragon's Dogma 2. If you enjoy the game, that's fantastic. Don't let my thoughts or anyone else's sway the enjoyment that you get from playing the game. All I want to achieve here is just highlighting a few potential issues, since other YouTubers and channels which I follow don't seem to be talking about it in their reviews and giving the game glowing recommendations despite clear problems with performance, outdated functionality, and microtransactions. Let's address the elephant in the room: microtransactions in a single player game. I remember waking up today to download the game and I saw that there was a small little bar at the bottom of the Steam page showing purchasable premium currency. I didn't think much of it at first, but this feeling got the better of me and I decided to go look up what was on offer for real world cash. So when I took a look at the store, I saw placeable fast travel points and the currency to use those fast travel points, one-time use character customization tickets, and even one-time use crystals for instant revives of your character. Please do note that all of these items can be found and acquired in-game, and the game never actually forces you to buy anything or shoves the in-game store in your face. Credit where credit is due, this is a decent way to approach microtransactions, but I don't believe microtransactions should be in a largely single-player experience to begin with. It just doesn't sit right with me and feels like Capcom is out to nickel and dime the player. Can you imagine paying $70 for a fully priced, largely single-player experience and forking out extra cash for revives during a tough boss encounter? Imagine if Elden Ring had a system like this, where you had the option to pay about $1 or $2 extra to instantly revive on the spot against a boss like Millennia or one of the other harder endgame bosses. That's just absurd, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with this option being available. I just believe that it cheapens the gameplay experience and it feels like a sneaky way for Capcom to try squeeze a few extra dollars here and there out of players who don't want to reload an old save and retread old ground. The next issue is the fact that you can only have one character and you can only have one save file. This means that if you want to create a new character or you want to, create another character to start from the beginning to try something new, pick a new decision that you didn't try last time, guess what? You need to delete your current character to do so. It's 2024. How is a multiple save/character system not a functionality of a AAA game that's produced by one of the largest companies of the world in this point? Granted, this was the system in the original game, but just because this was done in the past doesn't change the fact that it makes it extremely frustrating for players who want to replay your game or try something new mid-playthrough. Even then, putting myself in the shoes of Capcom, this doesn't seem to be profit-driven, as you can't pay to have multiple save files. Though, could you imagine the riot that this would cause if people actually had to pay for extra save files? Then, that leads me to my next point, right? What exactly is the point of making your customers' lives more difficult? I genuinely have no idea why this system was carried over from the original games that were made more than 10 years ago. Which is a shame, because RPGs are more often than not games which come with increased replayability as you are able to choose different pathways, different builds in a different save file, try out something new, retread old ground, check for something that you might have missed. Things like that. What baffles me is that this flexibility and replayability is now gone from the game due to the lack of multiple saves, and ends up detracting from the experience and removing the game's replayability. That is, of course, unless you do like a manual save, which is again pretty clunky and a bit questionable why this was not included in the base game to begin with, since every other game or most other games in this genre have that already built in. I don't know about this one. It's just a really strange practice to me, and I can't wrap my head around why this was not improved from the originals that was released 10 years ago. Even with all the consumer hostile practices I shared just now, I still believe that Dragon's Dogma 2 is a fantastic game. As mentioned earlier, its combat is outstanding, the world is beautiful, and the immersion is top notch. I could practically recall every single quest, hidden area and monster which I encountered since booting up the game about 5 to 6 hours ago, and that's extremely high praise, showing the authenticity of the game and its world. Take this for example. I was going around a small village and buying some gear when I noticed this brown-haired fellow poking his head around shops, houses and alleyways and talking to people on the street to join him on some sort of mission. I didn't think much of it at the time, but he suddenly approached me on the street after I was done with grocery shopping and asked if I'd be willing to help him search for his brother. Turns out our friend here, Ian, is a little afraid of going out by himself after the dragon's arrival, saying that the beasts are acting strange, and wants a little bit of help to make sure that he reaches his brother and that they are able to come home safe. After a short trek through the woods, he shows us a neat little camping spot hidden off the beaten path before finding his brother, alive and fighting off some wolves. After a quick scuffle and saving the two brothers and bringing them back to the village, the younger brother, Norbert, shared that he went ahead to get herbs for the villagers who needed healing after the dragon's attack. Our older brother, Ian, tried to convince Norbert out of it, but the younger brother was courageous and refused to let his fear take the better of him and went ahead against his older brother's wishes. At the end of the quest, the older brother laments that he didn't act sooner and resolved to learn from his younger brother's example of courage. Now, the village has both brothers helping them forage for the goods and herbs that they need to treat their wounded. All in all, I really like this game, and I'm just a little disappointed that a lot of these sneaky microtransaction practices and clunky single save features detracts from an overall positive experience. Is it a masterpiece? No. Is it garbage? Also no. Am I going to play the game despite everything which I mentioned? Yes. Again, just to reiterate, it's a solid game that is really held back from greatness due to Capcom's greed in my perspective, and it's our job to call this out and vote against these practices with our wallets. Again, this is all my perspective and POV, so please let me know what you think in the comments below and I will do my best to respond to as many as I can. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.